Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm Laurie Bull. In early March, Governor Tom Wolf delivered his budget address to the General Assembly, and this speech gave us the first glimpse at how he plans to govern Pennsylvania. New taxes, borrowing, and spending all combine into a budget plan that totals more than $33 billion. Can Pennsylvania afford the Wolf budget? Joining me to discuss this is Representative Todd Stephens of the 151st District in Montgomery County. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. And as I said, the governor did present his plan in a speech, but then you've had a little bit of time since that to kind of look at the details. What's your initial thought on this proposal that he's put out?
Well, let me just begin by saying I am working with the governor on several initiatives right now. So I was hopeful when he delivered his budget address that we might be able to continue working together. I was frankly shocked at the massive increase in spending that the governor proposed to the tune of 16% just in 1 year. That just seems like a massive increase. And of course, to fund that 16% increase would require a pretty massive increase in taxes as well across the state. So that is concerning to me. It's something that I'm certainly digging into pretty heavily and has my attention and has my concern, frankly.
Certainly. And then can you explain the implications of his plan and the tax increases to the general Pennsylvania taxpayer?
Sure. What he proposed is a 21% increase in the personal income tax, and in addition to that, a 40% increase in the sales tax. Now that's really accomplished through two mechanisms. One is by increasing the sales tax rate, but by also expanding the list of items that are subject to taxation. So everyday common items like toothpaste and newspapers, and I have a 9-month-old at home, so diapers, that hits home in particular. For seniors, there's an increase in taxes on the services that they receive. They would be subject to sales tax now. So when you combine both the increase in the sales tax rate and the expansion of the items that are included, you're talking about a 40% increase in the sales tax, and that hits everyone across the board, from low-income folks all the way up to seniors and everyone in between, and that's certainly something that's concerning.
Now he says the reason for this is he's going to offset that with property tax reductions. Your thought on that?
Well, this is the standard operating procedure for Harrisburg, unfortunately, and what do I mean by that? When Harrisburg makes the funding decisions about what goes on across the Commonwealth, in my district in particular, we get shortchanged. And that continues with this proposal. Out of the 500 school districts in Pennsylvania, only I think it's 96 of them actually receive a reduction in overall taxation. When you look at specifically my 4 school districts, the North Penn, Hatboro-Horsham, Upper Dublin, and Wissahickon school districts, and you add up all the increases in taxes that my taxpayers would be paying, and then you subtract any property tax reduction that they would see, you end up with a net increase in taxes of nearly $89 million just in my 4 school districts. So to me, again, it's a problem when Harrisburg is making those decisions about how funding is distributed. The idea may be noble to shift off of one type of tax onto another, but Harrisburg can't be making those funding decisions.
And that money's coming back to Harrisburg, and then it's questionable, I guess, how it's going to be redistributed at that point?
Well, that's the problem. Anytime money goes to Harrisburg, it turns out that taxpayers in my local school districts end up on the short end of the stick. So that's something that I'm very mindful of historically, and I'm certainly very concerned about that effort to just take more money, send it up to Harrisburg in the hopes that it's going to be distributed properly back to my constituents.
Now, you mentioned numbers for the specific school districts in your area. If anybody wants to check out those numbers, they can visit the website at www.taxpayersthatpay.com. They can look up those school districts in Montgomery County, in their particular school district. They can look it up across the state. They can check out any school district across the state to see how they're affected with that. Just to wrap up, what are your top priorities going into this year's budget? What kind of things do you use to guide you on how you're going to vote when that final plan comes for a vote?
Certainly. Well, since I was first elected, I've been pounding away at the school funding formula that so unfairly treats my taxpayers and my school districts. And what do I mean by that? Some school districts receive 78% of their total funding from the state. My school districts receive about 15% of their total funding from the state. The average across Pennsylvania is 35%. So my districts are receiving a little less than half of the state average in funding from Harrisburg. Again, going back to my point of the solution for my taxpayers has never been that we need to send more money to Harrisburg so that they can send it back out to the local school districts. That has never worked for my taxpayers, and I don't think it'll work under this governor's proposal. So I've been working on this school funding formula and focused on that issue since I arrived, and I'll continue to focus on the funding for my local schools and ensuring that Harrisburg is paying its fair share and meeting its constitutional obligations to provide a thorough and efficient school system for my students in my 4 school districts. In addition, I do think we have to take a look at pensions. This pension problem is mounting every single year. We see our pension obligations eating up more and more of our state budget. Now, we've got to ensure that what we're doing is fair. We've got to make sure that we're not talking about existing employees or even existing retirees. We're talking about new employees moving forward. We need to come up with a sustainable retirement plan for new employees moving forward that we can live with financially here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I think that is critical. Most importantly, sort of overarching all of this, is that we have to live within our means. Every household in my legislative district has to live within their means. They can only spend what they have coming in. Something that I came to Harrisburg thinking about, and I'm reminded of every single year at budget time, is the fact that government doesn't have any money of its own. It only has the money that it takes from somebody else first. So we have to be mindful that there's 2 sides of the budget ledger. There's what we spend, but there's also what we're bringing in. And what we're bringing in is people's hard-earned tax dollars. So we have to be fiscal stewards of the taxpayers' hard-earned tax dollars. And we've got to keep that in mind as we craft a fair budget for the Commonwealth moving forward.
Well, that sounds like a good point to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your time and all that information to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. And that is all the time we have for today's program. If you need assistance with any state matter, feel free to contact Representative Stephens at his local office or through his website. That information will be shown in just a moment. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time for Legislative Report.